My name is JD and this is my channel Frost and Forest. So today I wanted to do something a little bit different. I spent some time, I've been rearranging some of my decks and where I store them, and so I've been doing some reorganizing. It's kind of given me a chance to look at the decks that I have. And so one of the things I started thinking about is the decks that I haven't used yet. So essentially, when I get a new deck or a new to me deck, usually my process is that I will go through the deck, make sure all the cards are there, look at the cards, maybe try to get to know the deck a little bit, probably shuffle it a few times. And then for some decks that I'm really excited about, or for whatever reason, it just feels right to use them right away, then they will, get put out on my table and I'll just start using them a lot. But other decks, after I do the process of looking at them and shuffling them, it just doesn't feel right. So then I put them on the shelf and I wait until it feels right to use them, or I want to use them, or I get reminded to use them. So the decks that I'm going to show you today are the decks that I haven't been drawn to use yet. And I think part of what I'm hoping to do is talk through, look at the decks, and kind of decide how or when or if I want to try to use them. This goes back to one of the videos a while back, I think it was my March declutter. I was talking about how a couple of those decks I had never actually used before, but I was considering getting rid of them. And in both those cases, I was happy that I tried to use them before I made that decision, because it really clarified for me what I was thinking about for those decks. So today, I'm going to show you some of the decks that I haven't used yet and kind of talk through and think through my plan for using them. Also, I'll just say some of these decks I've had for quite a long time, and some of these decks are relatively new. It's a little bit more understandable that I haven't used them yet, but yeah, I'll get started. So let me see. First deck that I'm going to show you all is the Chicken Tarot. Look at those beautiful backs. I love that back. This is a deck that is relatively new. It hasn't been sitting on the shelf for very long. I got it earlier this year. It was a Kickstarter that I had backed, and I was so excited to get this deck. I'm not really a chicken person, but the sort of folksy art and the sort of the painting style of this deck just made me really excited, even though I'm not really a chicken person. And so it's actually kind of surprised me that I haven't really used this deck very much, because I was so excited to get it. I love that Sun's card. That's so beautiful. But yeah, I was so excited to get this deck. And so looking at it now, it does feel like a very summery deck. And so I'm wondering if part of the reason why I haven't used it yet is because it does feel like such a summery deck, and we're, just coming into spring now where I am. And so, although that feels like kind of a wintry card. And so I think I'm going to try to use this deck maybe in May or after May. And just because I do think it's very bright, and I want my days to get a little bit longer before I start using it. The other thing I was thinking about is this deck came in about the same time as my Magic Pantry Tarot came in. And the colors seemed like they would go really nicely together. And so, yeah, I like that. Look at those beautiful oranges together. And so the Magic Pantry also feels like a very summery deck. It feels like a picnic in a deck. And so I really like this pairing. And so I'm thinking that one of the things that I'm going to try to do in maybe May or maybe June is I'm going to try to work with these two decks together. Because, oh, I love this devil card. It's so good. Work with these two decks together because they just feel very homey. And the colors, I think, work really nicely together. And I just think they're really pretty. I don't know. And this has kind of like a farm to table feel to it. So yeah, I'm happy with that decision. I am going to use these when it gets a little bit brighter out. So another deck that I'm going to show you, and this is a deck that I've actually had for quite a long time. This is the Paper Oracle. It is basically a Lenormand deck that has some extra cards. And this is one that I've had for quite a long time, and I haven't really used it. And I'm not really sure why. The art is really pretty. I love the colors. I do use Lenormand decks somewhat regularly. I'm not as comfortable with them as I am with tarot decks or even oracle decks. But this deck also comes with a really good guidebook. So that shouldn't be the reason that's stopping me. I do have a few different Lenormand decks, so I wonder if I am just choosing other Lenormand decks. I don't really know, but I think it's such a beautiful deck. And I love the like slightly witchy vibe that it has to it with like the tarot cards. I love that it is, you know, gender inclusive. So I'm not really sure why I'm not using this deck. So I think for this one, yeah, see, that has kind of a witchy vibe. I think for this one, I'm going to try having this one out on my table and seeing if that will inspire me to use it more. But I'll just say, if you all have any ideas for, you know, how to use decks that you're just not using, or if you have pairing ideas that maybe would help inspire me to use some of these decks, feel free to comment. I would love to hear that, because the Paper Oracle I think is beautiful, and I like a cardinal. I love this bird's card. I should really want to use this deck, and I'm just not, and I'm not really sure why. So yeah, if y'all have any ideas, please let me know, because this is a beautiful deck, and I don't really want to rehome it, but also if I'm not using it, I don't know. Another one that I have had for a while and haven't really used, the Dinosaur Marseille. This is a chunky deck. This is a Marseille deck. And I think that is probably the biggest reason why I haven't been using it, is I don't know how to read with Marseille decks. But I really like this deck. I like the dinosaurs. I was really inspired by it because there are not, surprisingly, that many dinosaur decks out there. And so when this came up in a trade group, I really wanted to get it and try it, but I just have not used it. And I think part of it is that I haven't had the time to learn Marseille yet. I also think that this deck has a very brief guidebook. And so it just, it isn't enough to learn Marseille on. I also think that a barrier has been that they change the suit names. So not only is it in, I think, Italian. Yeah. It also, they've changed the suit names. And another barrier with this deck is that there are a ton of extra major arcana cards. And so it's like this one. This is an extra major arcana cards. And so I think that this has just been very confusing for me, but I really want to be able to use this deck because I love the dinosaurs and I love the colors, and I think it's a beautiful deck. And so if you all have any suggestions for learning Marseille, like if you have any resources or decks that you think will be really good for learning that, please let me know, because I'm kind of thinking I want to keep this deck, but at some point I think I maybe need to learn Marseille on a different deck that's a little bit easier to use, and then hopefully I can come back and start using this really cool dinosaur deck that is like baby JD's dream deck when I was a kid. So yeah, like I said, if you have any ideas for good decks for learning the Marseille, or good books for learning the Marseille, please let me know. I don't know how soon I'm going to get to it, but I do want to learn it. So I think for now, this deck I'm going to hold on to until I at least attempt to learn Marseille style reading cards. And then I'll try to use this deck again. But it's just been so fun to flip through this deck and look at all the pretty dinosaurs. Anyway, this was the Dinosaur de Marseille deck. Another deck that I have not used yet is the Viola Lux Umbra Tarot. This is a deck I got a while ago, and it is, you know, it's done by Layla and Olive, so the same creator that did the Ophidia Rosa and the Pythia Botanica decks, and so I really like this art style. It feels very witchy to me. I like the simplicity. I like the botanical themes to it. Oops. We somehow got upside down. So I like the way it looks, but it does look very similar to their other decks. You know, all of their decks have kind of the same style and aesthetic. And the other thing I'll say is I really like the Ophidia Rosa. It's one of my favorite decks. You know, if you were making me only keep 10 decks, for example, it probably would be one of the decks that I would keep. I'm actually gonna pull it out. So this one right here is the Ophidia Rosa. So you can see that the art style is pretty similar. The parchment color is a little bit different. The borders are a little bit different. But they do look kind of similar. It does also seem like the art, like I think that this is a good example. It seems like in the Viola Lux Umbra, sorry if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, the art almost seems finer. you know, there's more, it seems more detailed and more precise maybe. Whereas this, the art almost seems a little bit thicker. So it does seem like maybe their art style has changed a little bit, which I think is kind of cool. I think it's cool when artists grow as they create decks. And so I do wonder if the Ophidia Rosa is the reason why I haven't used the Luxe Umbra yet. And I've gotten pretty comfortable just using the Ophidia Rosa pretty intuitively, because the guidebook is basically, I think it's almost like a line of poetry in this one. And so you really do kind of have to have a good understanding of the cards and be willing to go with it, I think, a little bit. Whereas the nice thing about the Viola Luxe Umbra is that there is more of a guidebook. It still can be a little bit abstract and poetic, but there is more to work with there. And so, yeah, I don't know. You know, and all the other thing I'll say is, you know, I got the Ophidia Rosa and I was like, I'm not sure if I'm going to like that deck. And then I really liked it. And then I got the Pythia Botanica and I'm like, I'm not sure that I'm going to like that deck. And then I really liked it. And so for that reason, I really do feel like I should give the Viola Luxe Umbra a chance, because the other two decks I've had by this creator, I've ended up really loving. So I am wondering if, as much as I hate to say it, I need to put the Ophidia Rosa away for a while and have the Viola Luxe Umbra more readily available to see if I like it and actually give it a chance and actually try using it for a while. And I think it'll also be pretty telling for me if even though this is more readily available, I actively go searching out for the Ophidia Rosa. Yeah, so I think that that's what I'm thinking, is I'm going to put the Ophidia Rosa away for a while. I love the strawberries in this, though. That's so beautiful. And as the Eight of Pentacles, it's just, this art is so beautiful. I really like it. So, you know, if I like both of these decks, there's space, and I'm happy and excited to keep both of them. I just want to make sure I'm actually using both of them. So yeah, this was the Ophidia Rosa, and this was the Viola Luxe Umbra. So the last couple decks that I'm going to show you are actually decks that I haven't had for that long, so I don't think it's unreasonable for me to have not used them yet. But I did want to bring them out and at least talk about them a little bit and look at them a little bit, because that's kind of the point of this video. So another deck that I got but haven't really used is the Oracle of Victorian Symbols and Gothic Tales. This one I got earlier this year. I'll show you the backs. I kind of love this like arsenic green color. It's just crazy. And the guidebook is really great. I like it a lot. It does have a digital guidebook. And I got this deck because I have been getting into, you know, darker Victorian style decks lately. And so I thought that this would be a fun oracle to go with some of those, but I just haven't really used it yet. And this is the same as the back, maybe? Yeah, it is. And so I just haven't really used it yet. And so I think I still really like it. I want to figure out a way to incorporate it. But one of the things I've been thinking about a little bit is I would like to try to start playing with using tarot and oracle decks to write stories. And because this is, you know, related to Victorian Gothic tales, I like the idea of kind of using it for that purpose. So that might be something that I try to do, is use it with some of my other decks to just maybe help make decisions about, you know, direction characters might take or obstacles characters might have. And, you know, this is nothing amazing. It's just an idea for me to play with a little bit. And I'm just trying it out, because one of the things that I do like about decks like this is that it just gets my imagination going. And I've wondered if that would be a fun way to just kind of use some of that imagination and that energy. So I think that that's one way I'm going to try to use this deck, because it is a really great deck. And I love the bird expansion that is included. So yeah, this is the Oracle of Victorian Symbols and Gothic Tales. The last deck that I'm going to show you today is the Enchanted Forest Feline Tarot. So this is one that I got pretty recently. So it's not that big of a deal that I haven't used it yet. I also think it feels like a very summery spring type deck. Oh, that sun card is pretty. And so I think that's part of why I haven't used it yet, is like I said earlier, we're just kind of getting into that time of the year for me. Look at that beautiful botanical feeling, those flowers in this Justice card. It's so pretty. So, you know, I just think we haven't gotten quite to the right time of year for me to use this deck, but I think we are starting to get there. And so for this deck, I kind of think I'm just gonna have it out on my table now and see if I start using it more, because it's right there. Just, I don't know if you're like me, if, you know, when you have decks easily available and you just want to do a quick card pull, sometimes instead of thinking through, you know, which deck do I want to use for this, sometimes you just want to grab the closest deck. So I'm going to try to make this deck the closest deck. I do have many cat decks, but I very intentionally decided to get this deck because I liked that it had kind of a foresty vibe to it on top of being a cat deck. So the fact that, you know, it has one suit that are the mushrooms, and you can tell that I haven't used this deck in a bunch because I don't know which suit the mushrooms is. I think it might be maybe Pentacles. And then I think like Dandelions, which I also think is a great idea. Dandelions must be swords, because this looks like a 10 of Swords card. And Branches must be wands, because that looks like an 8 of wands. Yeah, so I just haven't used this deck yet. But I think I'm going to keep this deck out on my table and try to use it more, because I think it's cute and it makes me happy. And I think it's a really sweet deck. So that's what I wanted to share with you all today. Thank you for going through some of these decks with me and thinking through the process. I would love to hear your ideas in the comments, especially about some of these decks that I'm not really sure why I'm not using them. If you have ideas about how to incorporate them and how to start using decks like that, I would love to hear it. I'm also a pretty new channel. I am trying to grow my voice a little bit in the community and participate with the community more. So, you know, if you all enjoy this content, please like and subscribe. It's a great way to stay connected. So yeah, I hope you all have a great day, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for stopping by.